First level favorite enemy. Now that's a big change. This is codifying Hunter's Mark, so this replaced favored. So in Natasha's, the optional class feature favored foe replaced the first level feature favorite enemy in the player handbook, and now this UA is replacing favorite foe, but still called favorite enemy. Favorite, but it is replacing it. So I get that why they felt comfortable reusing the same name.
All backwards compatible, entirely backwards compatible, right. No confusion.
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons and Dragons fix. I'm Ellie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Melden.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at the new heavy quotes there, Unearthed Arcana, in the expert classes, the D&D One D&D stuff. Yes, if you have been sticking with us and watching every episode as it comes out, first, thank you. We love you. Appreciate it. Second, we are crazy late. Weird recording schedules, recorded a bunch in bulk, and then this just kept not happening. But we want to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it. If you're coming here in the future, this is totally timely, and the discourse is still super relevant. So, yeah, we're on the ball. Don't worry about it. Yes, it's by no means going to be like an in-depth overview of everything. There's a ton here. It might actually be one of our short episodes. We're going to kind of see how it goes. We just know we wanted to cover this, talk through it, give our thoughts on it.
And of course, also hear your thoughts, because I'm sure at this point, a lot of you all have had things to stew on and opinions yourself. So if you like what you hear or want to give your own thoughts, always leave a comment or, reach out to us in all of the ways that you can via social media. Maybe Twitter. We'll see if it's still around by the time we're done filming this and it gets released.
Released in 4 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. I give it about a 60-40. Let's see. All right. So this is November 20th, 2022. We'll see.
Captain's log.
All right. Yeah. One D&D, as I'm sure if you were watching this, you probably already know, are the new kind of the playtest packets. They could call them Unearthed Arcana now. New version of D&D. They've been a little tight-lipped on what exactly that's going to look like, but it's starting to shape up like a new player handbook, but still compatible with all of the other 5th edition stuff.
At least they'll keep telling us that.
Right.
But it's a lie.
Some of like the core class some of the core class changes seem like they're going to mesh poorly with old subclasses from like Tasha's and Xanathar's.
And by poorly, I see it. We mean not at all.
You're right. I do see it working fine with like adventures, because it's not like they're changing skill checks from what we can tell. They're not changing just the general, I'll say, gameplay, but just tweaking a lot of the execution of some of these rules. And of course the classes are, it's like the biggest overhaul portion. So when they said that it is backwards compatible, I felt like they kept that statement very generic, and time will only tell what exactly they meant by it.
Yeah, we'll see. I know in this UA, like they lay out 3 classes, the Bard, Ranger, and Rogue. They mentioned for it, if you could pick a subclass from Tasha's or Xanathar's, and like they explain how it works, and so that is intended in there, but it is also just the UA, not a formal release. So we shall see what happens. And yeah, we are specifically covering the expert classes one. This is the second one, the character origins, whatever it was. I don't know. I'm just don't feel all that excited about it. It's like just kind of redoing some races and whatever. We're skipping it because that's what we want to do. Yeah, so the first kind of major change talked about in this UA is class groups. These are experts, mages, priests, and warriors. This one is on the experts, being bards, rangers, rogues, mages, sorcerers, warlocks, wizards. It's just a different classification system, as best I could tell right now. And maybe kind of helping with design later on as they add more stuff. They could say, this is for expert classes. They don't have to specifically lay them out. So I think that's just kind of decent design structure.
Yeah, seems like a good move. It's small. They've already shown it a little bit with the feat system, and just hey, these feats are available to experts. These feats are available for this. So it just another layer of classification, but I do like it at least a little bit.
Sure. I think it'll help new players too when they're coming in. It gives you a quick Bard, Ranger, and Rogue. They're experts. Experts are this, and it's like, okay, you kind of get a sense of it. A real common you see in video games where you're picking, like when you have different different characters and classes that play really, really differently. These are offensive, these are defensive, these are support. Like, Overwatch and a ton of different things like that. CRPGs, whatever. They did release in this. Did you have any more on that, or should we just move on?
Nope,
Start talking about bards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's real small. It's minor. So they did release the new bard, the new unofficial kind of UA bard. Highlights here.
Yeah, biggest ones I'd say my overall takeaway, just to start there and then work backwards, is it seems like there was a bit of a power stretch in the Bard class as they have it laid out right now. Jack of all trades being moved from 2nd level to 5th level, Font of Inspiration being moved from 5th to 7th. There's this obvious recognition of the first couple levels of Bard being too strong, as I see it. At least that's what this is telling me. I don't know entirely if I agree. It definitely has a lot of power for like multi-classes, and this does weaken multi-classing pretty hard for if you're going into a bard. But my concern is that with these abilities kind of placed later on in the levels, that it takes away a lot of the identity that a bard gets in the first levels of 1 to 5, and if we see this permeate throughout other classes, then I also fear it's going to destroy early level gameplay even more than it already is kind of ignored. So it's like we're already ignoring it because we don't get any of our cool stuff, and now we're pushing it even further. It's like they recognize that high level play was being avoided, so instead of making high level play better, they made low level play even worse so that people could just say that they were playing at higher levels.
You're right. I definitely see that too. With all three of the classes here, I feel like they kind of stretched them out. Just abilities coming online later. And I also had the same thought. That's probably to try and get more higher level play, as most campaigns seem to end around level 10. I don't know. At least with the Bard specifically, I don't know if I fully agree that it makes them not have anything special early on. They still get Bardic Inspiration, which is huge. Still get Expertise. And at 3rd level, still get their subclass. And then they get other stuff as well, like their full spellcasting and Song Restoration. Though I don't think they're super. Obviously, spellcasting is huge, but it's not unique to Bard.
I think where it actually does kind of bother me, the only part that really does, Jack of all trades being moved is whatever. Font of Inspiration coming on at 7th feels really late to me, though, because that already at 5th level, it almost feels overly necessary for the bard. Like until you get that, Bardic Inspiration is something that you really have to resource guard. And at 5th level, I mean, it almost becomes on the total opposite end of the spectrum where you're using it so much, and just pushing that to 7th, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a very elegant solution to the issue of Font of Inspiration. So I'm hoping that some more comes out of that in the future.
Yeah, Font of Inspiration being the ability where your Bardic Inspiration comes back now in a short rest or a long rest instead of just a long rest. That one's hard to say in a vacuum of just this UA because if everything in this new edition or half edition, whatever it's going to be, is balanced around higher level play and leveling up quicker, maybe 7th is the new power jump. Right now, 5 is a big power jump. And so putting at 7 seems like, wait, where do you get... I'm sorry, Font of Inspiration, not Jack of all trades. I misspoke there. Yeah, Jack of all... Jeez.
Jack off of all trades. Is that
Yes, that's...
Did I get the name right?
Yes. Yes, the Font of Inspiration coming online is 7th instead of 5th as it was before. So maybe, I guess 7th will become the new power jump.
Because we still see, and this is kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the Ranger still gets extra attack at 5th level. So
that's true.
That hasn't changed at all. But we don't see any other spellcasters. So there could be just a hit going on to spellcasters, because the most common complaint in D&D, I don't know about the most common, but a very common complaint is that spellcasters are too strong compared to marshals. Now, I think if you asked any layman how you would want them to fix that, they'd probably say make marshals better, but making spellcasters worse is officially an option too.
It is an option, sure.
And the issue, of course, with making martial characters better is if you make them stronger, then the game gets weirder. Because we talked about this to death. If a combat lasts more than 2 rounds, it's like exceptional. It's like you juice up. If you
that
juice
does
up
seem to
marshals
be
to meet spellcasters, now it's like one and done rounds. You're gonna have to do like back to back. Like, all right, next combat.
Sure. I wonder if that's to try with combat seeming to move quicker, which definitely we've been seeing in new monster designs coming out, encouraging that, if that's to better make it more easy to facilitate the 6 to 8 encounters a day.
Man, all of this just seems like the wrong direction to go, though, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
that is the intent, I think everybody who has played for this length of time has kind of agreed that the 6 to 8, it's not that there's, I don't know, a desire to get that 6 to 8. It's that it just feels like way too much combat. And again, it doesn't have to be a combat encounter. I get that. There's other ways to expend resources, but still 6 to 8 generally becomes an awkward amount.
I agree, but if everything moves faster, maybe not. I don't know if I care for that direction.
Not to mention the fact that
like
this
it's definitely
moves
the easier.
It's gonna blast
What'd
people
you
to
say?
death.
Yeah.
Each of these combats, it's like, oh, it lasts 2 rounds. It's faster, but it's faster because like we'd find out if everybody dies or not in like 30 minutes instead of an hour.
Right.
If you do that over and over and over again, it's becoming like a coin flip to see if you're TPKing everybody.
That's totally fair. Yeah, definitely a lot of new monster designs have been really, really swingy. Be interesting to see how those mesh with new class designs and features.
Yeah.
And maybe this has nothing to do with the 6 to 8. I mean, we're just completely speculating.
That is the point of this.
Yeah.
This is all speculation.
Yeah.
Moving forward to the subclass, because I don't know if there was much else.
There's a lot.
Spells.
I disagree
spells.
entirely.
We want to talk about spells.
They're
Fine.
not preparation casters.
Cut it out. Say what you were going to say.
So yeah, spells castings, bards are now preparation casters. The other caster in here that was rangers that were not preparation casters are also preparation casters now as well. So I'm curious. It'll be interesting to see if just all classes are that. And also how you prepare spells changed a little bit. How many you could prepare. Before it was either like your class level or half of it plus your spellcasting modifier or sometimes proficiency bonus maybe. There's like a little formula figured out. Everyone was a little different. Now the spells you could prepare match your spell slots, which is a pretty big change, but I think the numbers you could prepare will still kind of work out similarly, but it feels like it locks you in more. Like previously, if you could prepare 6 spells and you had up to 3rd level spots, you could prepare 5 3rd level spells and then 1 of something else. Now, if you only have like 2 level 3 spell slots, because that's the minimum, you could only prepare 2 level 3 spells. And I don't really care for that. That seems like an unnecessary limit.
It's true. I like the versatility. And as you leveled up, a lot of times you would find that maybe your 1st and 2nd level spells, you only needed 1 or 2 of those, but you've got 4 slots, and feeling like you now have to fill that up instead of being able to have the choice of where it goes it's an unnecessary limiter. I understand from a simplicity standpoint why they'd go that direction, but I don't love it either.
Yeah, I don't think it was all that complicated before. It's just take like if you're a full caster or half caster, your class level or half level plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Like that's what you prepare.
It for a new player, I feel like it was complicated, but I don't think this makes it that much simpler for a new player that it's worthwhile to sacrifice.
I think for new players, what's been the most complicated with spellcasting is spell levels versus spell slots.
Right.
And that's exactly the same. And now prepared spells are also tied to spell slots, but they say prepared spells per spell level.
Yeah.
It just makes it more complicated. I don't really like this change.
You should have to prepare the spell at the level you cast it.
And that's
I think that's
an
how it
old
used to
style
be.
as well as how
it's fancy and
Pathfinder. Yeah, that's how Pathfinder, at least 2nd edition, handles it. And this feels like a half step towards that. And yeah, just a bit awkward.
Right. Cantrips are also part of being preparations as well. You don't permanently learn them anymore. At least bards and rangers don't. Also, rangers now get cantrips, which they didn't before. So that's new. But we're not at rangers yet. So that's also really interesting. I do like. It felt really kind of odd that cantrips, like you pick them when you make the character, and like every few levels Like you get a new one. Sometimes it could be like 5 or 6 levels. You get a new one, and then you're locked in, and that's it officially. So I like that they could be changed at each long rest as well. That doesn't seem game breaking at all to me, especially if all casters can do it.
Which we don't know, for the record. It's very important to
Yeah,
stress that
we don't know.
we don't have the UA for how the overwhelming majority of casters in this game play. Bard is the only full spellcaster on this list, and it is like it stands out as an expert class.
Right. And then finally, one last big change for spellcasting, and there's these really, since bards are spellcasters, it's a huge deal for them. All of this stuff, they can only prepare divination, enchantment, illusion, or transmutation spells. That's a decent amount, and it pretty closely lines up with the spells they had anyways, like in the current edition. I mean, I didn't read through line by line, so I don't know specifically what's missing, but I'm sure there are some key ones missing from that would kind of suck.
Yeah, one that's kind of big, though I guess they have at least healing word. They won't get cure wounds. I don't actually know if they had cure wounds before. Do they only have healing word? Because I see that as part of their songs of restoration repertoire, they get some prepared spells always that don't count against it. And in that, you
Which
see
are healing spells. Yeah,
yes,
healing
all
word.
the healing spells. So normally evocation, what they'd be losing there is the healing, because evocation's healing magic for whatever reason. I don't know. There's no better spot. So I don't know. I guess this kind of is like codifying the exceptions in a different way. So yeah, I guess I'm with you. I don't know if this is really changing much as much as it's communicating it in a simpler way.
Sure. I guess I don't. Yeah, I don't feel that strong. And for this, well,
I guess what I would say is like how it previously was, and this is meta commentary on a meta system, is back in the day you had a list. This was the list of spells you got. Now we have an explanation of the spells you get that translates to the list we got. So this is more of an explanation of what it was back in the day than it is a change to what it is now.
Yeah, that's fair. So overall, sure. it's a sideways change. Nothing changed.
Yeah, they probably gained some, lost others. And again, from a design structure, I think it is definitely easier. Create a new spell. Say this is, this school of magic. And then it's automatically kind of backwards compatible to like whoever can get that, instead of specifically having to say bards and wizards and sorcerers get this.
Right. Sets up for cleaner language.
Yes. One more thing in the core class before we jump to the subclass. Magical Secrets got a huge boost in this because it's now that the preparation casters, they could prepare that they can now use Magical Secrets, which is basically picking a spell from any list. And now instead of like picking it at level 10 when they get it and then they're stuck with it, it's now a preparation. After every single long rest, they could change what that spell is, which is pretty crazy. That's big jump. Yeah, choose a spell list, Arcane, Divine, or Primal. Whenever you prepare spells from this class, up to 2 of your spells you prepare can be 2 instead of 1 can be chosen. I guess you normally get 2 anyways. The chosen list from any school of magic. Otherwise, it needs to follow. So typical type stuff needed to match the spell level, but
yeah, something interesting as well is that we also now only have 2 points of getting magical secrets at 11th and 15th, instead of before in the 5th edition core it was 10th and then 15th, 10th, 14th, and then 18th. So you're getting more versatility from your magical secrets because, as you just said, it's now preparation, but we're also getting 4 instead of 6 spells. I think that kind of balances out to me. I think 4 that you can prepare and choose is, I'll actually just say that is better than 6 kind of random ones that you're hoping are worthwhile on any given day.
Right.
I would also say it's not a power creep.
It,
because a lot of people, you just got the best ones and you were stuck with them. Whereas this one, now you don't have to be stuck with the best ones.
Right. Like the most versatile, not necessarily always the best, depending on the situations.
Right.
You would generally want to pick the ones where it's like, all right, in certain situations, the spell over here is going to be a lot better, but that's kind of not all the time. And this is a really big pick. So I'm going to pick this one over here. That's not as exciting. but I know it's going to come up every day.
Yep.
One limit though is this one at 11th level, when you get it, you have to pick Arcane, Divine, or Primal, and it sounds like you were locked into that list until 15th, where you can then pick another list. So it's not literally all of them. So it's just kind of some trade-offs.
That's a
But
good
I
point.
do like how it's preparation.
I like that from a flavor perspective, because to me it almost gives your bard a little bit of specialization in their lack of specialization. It's
Right.
it's identifying that it takes time to learn about each of these different schools, if we want to call them that, or disciplines is the word that they use. So at 11th level, like, oh, I've been focusing on arcane, or I've been focusing on primal or divine, whatever that is. It does give a little bit of body to your bard.
Okay, now we could talk about the lower bard.
Wait. Can we do it's just like
Never mind. Sorry, Jared.
touch on bardic inspiration?
Probably should.
Oh shit! Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. That is actually a very big change too. Yeah, so the new bardic inspiration it's a reaction, and it's kind of the same thing. It's a D6, then becomes a D8, 10, and a D12, and you use it for other people's rolls to help boost it. But instead of having to be a bonus action to give it to them, where they keep for 10 minutes and can use it once, as your reaction, you expend one after somebody fails a D20 test, which is ability checks, saving throws, or attack rolls. Previously, it was limited on what you could use those on, and then roll it. So I think I like that better.
I like this better. It's cleaner. It is definitely a small power boost, not one that's going to break the game in any capacity, but it's
Right.
much cleaner in actual gameplay. It's less bonus actions, which already becomes like the biggest limiter for characters, I swear, is bonus actions. So don't quote me on that, but it feels like it a lot of times. And making this now reaction kind of spreads out what somebody's going to be doing on their turn. It makes it so you don't have to waste bardic inspiration as often either, because generally you're the bard expert, Ellie, so I'm going to ask you. Generally, you choose to roll the bardic inspiration before you see the roll of the die, correct?
No, it's after.
No, it's after. Okay, so you could do it after you fail.
Yeah, why it would be. Oh shit! All right, I'm second guessing that. One reason though, as I pull it up, one reason it could definitely be wasted is it only lasts 10 minutes, so you could give it to somebody,
right?
And then like a situation comes up where they don't need it,
which happens pretty often, especially if you give it to them in combat and then combat ends, and then there you go, it's wasted.
And the meta, I forgot I had this.
Yeah, which happens a lot, and this takes care of that. I mean, it's one less cognitive load for a player to have. Now the bard is the holder of it, and they're the only one who has to remember that, yes, I have bardic inspiration. They hear that it fails, and it's all on one person, instead of trying each person. The barbarian, who is, I guess, used to only managing their rages, doesn't have to remember that they have bardic inspiration.
Don't have to ask what the die is at this point. It's great.
That actually is really nice too.
Yeah, or remembering what it's for.
Like, what can I roll this on? What die is it? Oh, I had one.
Right.
This fixes all of that with one just like clean swoop.
Yep,
it definitely does. The current version of the bardic inspiration does say after you roll the d20 before the DM says what happens. It's kind of that awkward wording. So yeah. One thing I will say, this kind of hurts lore bards cutting words a bit. Cutting words is basically the same in the UA here, where it's a reaction against an enemy's roll to lower it, which is a really, really cool ability, but then they get one reaction per round. And so now you're fighting with helping your allies versus hurting your enemies, because it's the same resource.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been the same resource of bardic inspiration die, but now it's also your one reaction round.
Yeah, overall, this is I'm okay with that for the health of bardic inspiration. It is an overall boon, but I see where it cuts into cutting words.
Yeah, and also speaking of health, you can now heal with bardic inspiration. That's just completely new. Immediately after another creature within 60 feet, now you can see or hear takes damage. You can use your reaction to roll your bardic inspiration and restore a number of hit points to the creature equal to the number rolled. That's never going to be crazy high, but can be nice, especially if it drops them to 0. I think it's going to stop that. That's
Yep.
how I would read that. It doesn't really explicitly say, but
Yeah, I guess
that's neat. That's how I would definitely save it for that, because the potential of like, I'm going to use my 1 reaction around and my limited bardic inspiration die to heal you an average of 4 health isn't great. But if they're dropping to 0 and you prevent that, that's well worth it.
I would like to know the order of operations, and I could see some clarification needed on this. Is if you, just to throw some numbers in, you get 10 damage dealt to you, you had 1 HP. If you restore 4 HP, does that bring you up to 4? Or does it say, well, you took 10 damage, that 4 happens like in the between the damage, and you need to heal more than the damage overflow in order to keep them up? Or
Why
is
would
it
they make it like
you
that?
take the damage?
Why would they do that? Why would they?
It needs that clarification to me.
No, they
Because
drop to
if
0,
Sure.
and as a reaction, you just bring them back.
I guess it says when they take the damage, you use reaction. Okay, so damage happens first, then reaction.
I wouldn't be surprised at all in the final release if that heal ability, if it's made it in, is going to be extended and clarified for
Yeah,
that. Whatever their intent is. It's very open right now.
And then the
Alright.
other super important part, though, is the number of uses, because that changes from being tied to the charisma modifier to now your proficiency bonus.
Yeah. Which is, it just makes it a different arc. You start out with only having 2. When you would start out with having 3. And then actually it's kind of less. Then at 4th you would generally go up to 4 because you get your charisma to 18. And at 5th you get 3 of them now. Then in 9th you're at 4, when at that point you would have had 5. Then finally at 13th you catch back up to having 5. And at 17th it finally becomes better at 6. So it's definitely
Much slower curve.
it's a hit to them.
Unless you're multi.
And
Assuming you're optimizing and focusing on charisma. If you're not, this definitely makes it a little better. It makes it really good for multi-classing.
I was just about to say that too.
Yeah.
It does improve multi-classing for that, but then coupled with the change to Font of Inspiration coming on at 7th, overall you're looking at less bardic inspiration being used. I'll just say throughout the life of a campaign. How much of a difference, who knows? But I think that's giving them a little bit of room to make bardic inspiration a bit stronger and not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It overall it feels like it's kind of balancing out.
Sure. Okay, now lower bard. Right?
I don't have any thoughts about it. No.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're the one who wanted to get to it earlier.
I was just
you were all
trying to
like
keep things
rearing to
moving.
go. You were just trying to keep
All
things moving.
right.
We're not good at keeping things moving.
No, I mean, yes. So obviously, with College of Lore, the first thing that jumps to me that is worth talking about is the fact that there's no magical secrets anymore. So now a bard has to wait, regardless of the subclass, until level 11 for that magical secrets. To me, getting the magical secrets at level 6 was a huge benefit to the College of Lore, and this is definitely a pull back from their current power.
Yeah, and they replaced it with Cunning Inspiration. When another creature rolls your Bardic Inspiration die, the creature can roll the die twice and use the higher of the 2, which is good, but it's kind of dull. It's definitely not as exciting as additional magical secrets.
Yeah, it puts it more in line, I think, with, I'd say, every other bard class. And it's not that magical secrets was like so powerful. I'm not going to sit here and say that
it was pretty good.
But it was pretty darn good. And so I'm not upset about it being taken out, but it is, I guess, an acknowledgement by Wizards of the Coast that, yes, it was probably a bit too strong.
Sure. Yeah, the 3rd level bonus proficiencies and cunning words are basically the same. Small little subtle differences, best I could tell, unless I'm remembering. Oh, you can no longer. Never mind. You can never cutting word saving throws previously. Yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah, 6 is now the cutting inspiration that we send instead of additional magical secrets, and now you also get something at 10th, improved cutting words. Whenever you use the cutting words feature, you can deal psychic damage to the creature equal to the number rolled on the bardic inspiration die plus your charisma modifier. Just a little extra thing.
Sure.
It's a bit of extra damage. It's definitely Yeah, it's just feeling really at odds with if you go Lore Bard, which in the UA is the only option to go. What route do you go with your Bardic Inspiration to help your, since it's like I said, it's only one reaction per round, help your allies or hurt the
So
enemies? Because
you're
like,
you're talking about being limited by the reaction, but as we just
yeah,
talked about, the limit is also going to be the amount of bardic
yeah,
inspirations you have in general. So I,
both, yeah,
I mean, there's just a lot more limitations on your bardic inspiration. So that is just part of the class now. Is you're going to struggle on what you want to use it for. You're not going to be just
right,
throwing them out left and right.
right. Yeah, I guess it kind of gives you the choice of which one you want to focus on because it sort of boosts both of them. All right, anything else on Bard before we move on?
Nope. Overall thoughts are, I guess, what I started with. I see that it's like stretching out the power curve. I don't know if I love it. But a lot of the minute changes, I think I'm a fan of. A lot of
Hmm.
streamlining.
Cool. All right, Ranger. Next one. Basically, the optional class features in Tasha. They just put it in here because they kind of already did this and pretty recently. But there are some key differences. Again, they're now preparation casters, which I love, 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 love. It makes so much sense that Rangers are preparation casters.
Yep, long overdue.
Yes, we kind of talked about just doing that in our games, anyways. We never actually followed through on that. Because I'm the ranger and I haven't really complained. So, but we
Yeah.
definitely discussed.
Squeaky wheel gets the grease, Ellie. You gotta
Yeah, that's fine.
whine
I don't
more.
care. um, yeah, much needed. They're still half casters. Their preparation works the same as we discussed in Bard. It's basically they can prepare things based on their spell slots. They get cantrips now, which they previously didn't. Another really big boost. And these cantrips could also be prepared.
Funny enough, this is actually
So
adding the
over.
optional Tasha's thing because they could optionally get a fighting style that gave them druid cantrips.
That's
Oh
true.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. These guys are primal casters, right?
Yep.
Yes.
I kind of skimmed that part. First level favorite enemy. Now that's a big change. This is codifying Hunter's Mark, where so this replaced favored. So in Natasha's, the optional class feature favorite foe replaced the first level feature favorite enemy in the player handbook, and now this UA is replacing favorite foe, but still called favorite enemy. Favorite, but it's, I mean, it is replacing it, so I get that why they felt comfortable reusing the same name.
All
Favorite
backwards
foe,
compatible. Entirely
yeah,
backwards compatible. No
right.
confusion.
Favorite foe in Tasha's is the one where, as a bonus action, you can mark someone as your favorite foe when you hit them and do an extra 1d4 damage the first time on a hit. Does not take concentration. No, it does take concentration. Doesn't use a bonus action. That was the big saving thing of it. This one, they went the other way. This one takes favorite enemy. It takes your bonus action, but you don't have to concentrate on it.
I don't
Basically,
want
you
to.
get free Hunter's Mark.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy, but I think our Ranger retro said a lot of this. A lot of
Uh
this.
huh.
So far, we're like 2 for 2. Preparation casters, making Hunter's Mark just part of the class. And I know there's a third one coming up that we also talked about.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I kind of missed the context at the beginning here. You had Hunter's Mark spell prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. Moreover, you don't have to concentrate on the spell. Once you cast it, it lasts for its full duration until you end it as bonus action until you're incapacitated. And later on, extra damage is added to it, but that's really, really high up. But that's kind of neat too. So I like how it doesn't take concentration because like Rangers do have some cool concentration spells, and
Yeah.
having to just waste it on Hunter's Mark really sucks.
Yep. It feels really silly. It made it feel like you were just the Hunter's Mark class and you were like almost shackled by Hunter's Mark instead of lifted up because of how good it was.
Right. It's still spell slots though, which
Sure.
you are very limited on, and it is still your bonus action. Which, if you are like a dual wielding ranger or you did crossbow expert, I know that's a somewhat common way to play ranger, the offhand crossbow shot. This interferes with that as well, and there's tons of math out there about generally for quicker enemies that die within a few rounds, it's better to just keep using your bonus action to hit them before Hunter's Mark catches up. But
There's a ton of
if
math
you,
out there, and none of it matters. I don't care about the math. Too much for like the average player. There's like
Yeah.
16 people who actually care about that.
Also, I
Sure.
don't think you have to use a bonus action to make two weapon fighting work anymore.
Oh,
Did they
that is a
change that?
change.
I missed that.
Yep. When you take the attack action on your turn and attack with a light weapon in one hand, you can make one extra attack as part of the same action.
That's it. That's the end of it.
Well, no, there's more of it.
Okay, but
I'm not going to read it, but there's
You know
more.
what
Of it.
yeah.
There's tons of words. They're great words.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. I missed that. I must. I mean, the rules section. Some of them I skimmed.
Which UA is that?
I know
in?
what that
Can you
is.
This
remind
one.
me?
It's in.
This is the
both.
expert.
Once
Okay,
again, I'm
cool.
going to make a
There's a
meta
rules
commentary
glossary at the
here.
bottom
There's
of
just
both.
like an info dump at the back of this UA. The last few pages are just like a smorgasbord of, oh, this is just random stuff. It might have changed. It might not have. It all changed.
Some of it changed. Grappling changed in a big way, and we'll get to that when we get down there. We're just kind of going through the UA in the order that it is. Okay, that's a huge difference, being able to do 2-weapon fighting without using a bonus action. I love that. A lot of, again, I know people do 2-weapon fighting because it's cool, but again, if you're kind of trying to optimize it, a lot of times it doesn't work out too favorably for most classes. So taking away the bonus action requirement's awesome, and that frees up definitely a lot of use for Hunter's Mark.
Definitely. The other thing I will add, I mean, I'd say a lot of it, this kind of stays the same for the most part, like you mentioned, Ellie. But one thing that I think is important to point out is that for Tireless, might have been what it was called before. Is it the same? Yeah, Tireless is what it was called before. Was obtained at 10th level in the optional class features, but changed to 11th level now. It really works the same, where you can either give yourself temp HP and you can decrease exhaustion when you finish a short rest. The exhaustion rules were changed or are going to be changed in some fashion. The first thing that we saw for it was that each level of exhaustion reduces all D20 checks by the level of exhaustion that you're at. So we had a whole episode about exhaustion and how we disliked it. That was kind of one of the things we tossed around, I'm sure. But this is like a very simple execution of exhaustion. I really like it. I see it going to be used more, and as such, this ability becomes better because Rangers are going to be the ones who are basically always ready for the fight and able to reduce that exhaustion compared to everybody else who's kind of lagging behind and can really still be effective even with 3, 4, I won't say 5 levels of exhaustion. That's when everybody's like, let's slow down. We've got -5 to all of our rolls. But,
Right.
There's just a big benefit. And I think that changing other rules had a major change on how important this feature was.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like the new exhaustion as well. And again, and as we talked about, it's real similar to what we kind of came up with when we were trying to homebrew our own exhaustion.
I assume
we
they
made it
got
a
it
little more
from us.
complicated, but
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely, ours was it definitely was a little more complicated.
right. But the
But yeah.
core of it was like every other level, it was an additional -1 to a roll, and then there was some flavorful stuff between, but it's kind of a similar idea.
Yep.
And then in the core class here, they updated the capstone. So all of these capstones moved from 20 to 18, because at 20th, you get an epic boon, and we could cover those when we get to that. But there's some really, really cool ones. The old Foe Slayer is on each of your turns, you could add your wisdom modifier to an attack roll or the damage roll and attack you make against one of your favorite enemies. That's the favorite enemies you have to pick when you create the character. This new one now at 18, the new Foe Slayer, is your Hunter's Mark deals an extra 1d10 damage to his target rather than an extra 1d6. It's just a shit.
It's just as uninteresting. This obviously is
Mhm.
better because Hunter's Mark damage can be dealt multiple times per round. So there's at least that aspect.
Sure.
But it's just not an interesting jump at all. And personally, if they were going to do this, it's too far away. 18th level is way too long to go from a single D6 to a D10. Somewhere in between here, maybe 9th level, just split the difference, we should have the 1d8 as well, and then works up to the 1d10. I still
Yeah.
think it should do more regardless because it's just not interesting, but it does feel like, I don't know, a long wait for just a little fizzle.
Yeah, it an extra 2 damage a roll. That's all it is. When you have Hunter's Mark and you're spending the spell slot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Hunter's Mark for free, for example, would be a good capstone. It no longer takes a spell slot to cast Hunter's Mark. You will always have Hunter's Mark up.
Yeah, it's
Why
always
not?
cast at It's always cast at like that maximum level where it lasts 8 hours or whatever.
Right.
Or 24. Yeah, whatever it ends at.
Yeah. And even if you want to say just like once per day, and then if you get incapacitated, okay, now you've got to spend the spell slot. And we get this increase. That to me feels a little more 18th level-y. Is that an adjective?
Yes.
18th level-y. Yeah.
I agree. They kind of have
So
to
sorry.
Like with this isn't a spell, but it's a spell, but it's not, wink, wink, but it is a spell.
And that's my issue is I think that Hunter's Mark just needs to be removed as a spell. Like it just shouldn't be accessible by other classes. Just make it the Ranger's thing. Stop trying to make it a spell. Have it use a spell slot. I mean, Paladin Smites do the exact same thing. They're not a spell that anyone else can get, but they use a spell slot. The precedent is there, and leaving it on the primal spell list just makes it, I don't know, it makes them do these half measures instead of just saying, all right, this is the Ranger's thing. Now, Ranger, go be good with it.
Yeah, I guess if it's on the primal spell list, like Druids could probably get it now.
We'll see. That's the, an expectation that I have,
right.
But it may be that they...
Which feels weird.
it does.
Yeah. All right, then new Hunter subclass. Anything else about the core class or the subclass? So, okay, new Hunter subclass. I hate it.
All the fun of Hunter
on.
without any of that choice.
Yeah, exactly. That's every single time we dove back into the Ranger and talked about the Hunter subclass, and anytime a subclass gives you choices to make as you level up, I always gush over how much I love the choice and the customization, and they just took it out. It's just not there anymore. At 3rd level, they just give you Hunter's Prey, which is the Giant Slayer, where if a thing, or Colossal Slayer, I don't remember which.
It's Colossus.
Where if you attack something that's
How could
less
you
than
not
its maximum
remember
health,
that?
You call yourself a 5th edition expert.
Colossus Slayer. It's right
you
there
do an
in the
extra
title.
1d8 damage.
Go ahead.
And it's once per turn. Extra 1d8 damage once per turn if it's less than maximum health, which is a really great ability and definitely one of the more common picks for that one. But it's like, why not just give you the choice? And then 6th, 10th, and 14th are just I feel like Hunter's Lore should have been a base class feature. Which is new. You could call on the force of nature to reveal certain strengths and weaknesses of your prey. While it's marked by Hunter's Mark, you know whether the creature has any immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities, and if the creature has any, you know what they are. So first, this steps all over the toes of the monster slayers or monster hunters.
But that took like a whole action or bonus action or something in the base.
Yeah, this is just better because you just cast Hunter's Mark on it, and I like that flavor. Like you cast Hunter's Mark, you get to like read them.
Yes. Do you remember in our Ranger Retro what my big thing that I was stamping and crying about the entire time is that Hunter's Mark should differ per subclass. And I can't be too mad that they implemented that because that's exactly what I asked for.
Okay.
So like I like
fair.
that. I really like that Hunter's Mark is now able to be changed based on the subclass, and I look forward to what they do with the other ones. Hunter's Lore, I actually don't have an issue with it. The fact that it steps on the Mage Slayer is okay because that gives the Mage Slayer better room to be a mage. What was it? Monster Slayer? Mage Slayer? What was the name of it? Monster Slayer. Maybe that has a different arc, or maybe they just scrap it entirely. I'll be honest, it always fit into a really odd spot because it started off sounding like a Monster Slayer and then turned into this magic user's nemesis and like all this stuff that was, is it anti-spellcaster? Is it anti-monster? What is it going for? So giving that all to Hunter, that's a good thing to me.
Sure, but it's not all. It's just this.
No, just this one thing. But putting that archetype of being the monster hunter, I mean, if you're the monster slayer or you're the hunter, to me, they can kind of be used interchangeably.
Sure, I could see that. The other two are fine, I guess. They get multi-attack attempt, which is kind of, I think it's poor choice of wording because that's confusing.
Yeah.
But you have Conjure Barrage prepared, and it doesn't count against your number that you get prepared. So you just kind of always have that as a spell, and you could cast it with first and second level spell slots, just doing reduced damage. It's usually a third level spell. It's like, okay.
Yeah, this is awkward to me. I mean, downcasting is a new concept, and
Mhm.
I'm not totally against it, but I am against it as a class feature. That's where it feels awkward to me.
Okay. I think it needs to be specifically called out like that. It shouldn't just be like any spell could be downcasted because some of them don't make sense.
Right, and some spells can't be upcasted right now because it doesn't
Oh,
make
that's
sense.
true. They
So
just
there's no change there. I just think that saying that, I don't know, this being like an entire class feature is that they can cast it at lower levels. You're giving a half caster more spell versatility when they don't have enough spells to be slinging them around as it is.
That's true. And then the 14th Superior Hunter's Defense. This is just Uncanny Dodge at 14th level.
Yep. That
Though you
takes
could
a little while to get.
redirect half the damage to another creature, which is new. So that's something, I guess.
So what I
So
want to
overall,
say,
I'm really disappointed in the.
I get where you're coming from.
Go on.
I like what you like about the Hunter, how it was. I like the idea of customizing your customized subclass, but all those all those options sucked. Anything good in those options is in here or better. I will not budge on that. Those options were terrible and not options at all. So I get where they're coming from, but I get why it kind of sucks.
I wouldn't say the other ones suck. Giant Killer, when a large or larger creature within 5 feet of you hits or misses with an attack, you could use your action to attack the creature immediately after its attack. Horde Breaker, once in each of your turns, when you make a weapon attack, you can make another attack with the same weapon against a different creature that's within 5 feet. Like, those are good as well.
And incredibly
Colossal
situational.
Slayer comes up more often. What'd you say?
I just think it's so there. That one is a good example of somewhere I could see what you're talking about, but the next ones, they're really just bad. And they get more and more situational. And it's just, these I see coming up all the time. Whereas the other ones I saw, like, you're making a bad choice. Defensive tactics, opportunity attacks have disadvantage, multi-attack defense. If something attacks you again on the same turn, you get +4 AC. Steel Will, this is incredible. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened.
Yes, that one sucked. I would have rather see them rework the options that suck instead of get rid of them altogether.
Yeah. That's where I'm at too. But I like what they give you here, to be honest. I think it's pretty good.
Sure.
Minus the multi-attack one. I'm not happy about that.
Well, look at what it
I'd rather
replaces.
just volley.
Just like an objectively worse thing.
I guess they could have made those better. But they might. They still have time. We can still be optimistic so that when our hopes and dreams are crushed, it is that much more satisfying for Wizards of the Coast.
I hate it when my hopes and dreams aren't available to be crushed. That's why I keep the internal childlike optimism I have in my heart just glowing softly, faintly.
That's always what I think about when I think of you, Will. It's just childlike optimism. All right. Overall thoughts on the Ranger? I don't know. Any closing ones on them?
I kind of feel like we covered them throughout. Like, I like the spell casting, the preparation casting.
Okay, we'll move on.
Favorite enemy.
One thing, I'll close it off.
It'll just be rehashing.
The class as it is right now is a mess because of all the optional changes, and I'm kind of just glad we're done with them.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's true.
I'll take anything, please.
Yeah, just codify it in there. Okay. All right, rogues. Rogues are not too different. They're still not spellcasters, so nothing crazy going on there. Arcane Trickster's not in the UA, so we don't know how that's being handled. The 1/3 casters. Sneak Attack got a nerf though, which sucks. It's
Pretty
once
big
on
one.
each of your turns when you take the attack action, you can deal extra damage to one creature. So you can no longer get Sneak Attack off of opportunity attacks or special situations to be able to attack not on your turn.
Embers would be devastated. Your Arcane Trickster, This would have gutted that entire build.
You also can't ready sneak
even
attacks.
holding.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I say, you can't hold your action to attack, and then, you can't get sneak attack off of that, which I think is really stupid. I don't know why.
No, it's great. I love
You know what? Now that I say that, I like it. Yeah.
You suck, rogues.
No, this usually when you compare damage per round and all that math, you need to try and get these sneak attacks on your not turns and the opportunity attack, sneak attacks, or whatever, in order to maintain damage in line with other classes, spellcasters, yada yada yada. So no, I don't think that this was a necessary nerf. What does it add? What benefit does it bring to the table?
Yeah.
It tastes salty, doesn't it? It tastes like somebody who made this was just like sick of somebody exploiting the like command abilities where you can make someone do the reaction attacks. And they were just like, no, not anymore.
So it feels like I made the rogue, but like, I try to recognize my own biases and be like, I get that I hate it, but it's not broken. It just feels gross. But feeling gross isn't a reason to take it out. Sometimes it's good to feel gross. Otherwise, big changes here are they really switched around when the subclass gains come in, and we can talk about the subclass in a minute, but in the original Rogue, you get a subclass ability at 3, 9, 13, and 17, and that is now shifted to 3, 6, 10, and 14. And that to me was a very welcome change because the Rogue's 9th level abilities never felt too amazing, and waiting till 9th made their gameplay feel very stagnant between 3rd and 9th level, as all that they were obtaining in between there were defensive abilities and more sneak attack dice. So very welcome change, in my opinion, is bringing those subclasses things down basically 3 levels each.
Definitely.
It's worth noting all subclass features are now on the same levels where they weren't in the past.
Oh yeah, that was awkward too.
Oh, they didn't match before?
No, yeah, you'd get...
I think Rogues, they had potential to get something at 6th level or 9th level or sometimes
No, I mean
both.
between classes.
Okay. Oh.
So all these classes currently have the same milestones.
Oh, you're
3rd,
right.
6th, 10th, 14th. Okay.
So we know across experts at least.
Across experts.
That's how it works.
I would guess that at least it's going to be, for like across genres, it's going to be the same. It might be across everything. We don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. Because I still think that there's somebody at Wizards of the Coast who absolutely loved their Strixhaven idea of like the modular subclasses, and I could see those one day being put back out there, but it's much easier to slot it in for experts when all experts get a subclass feature at the exact same time. But that's so much speculation.
Right.
I think
a wild
right
amount.
Over the money, to be honest.
Right over or on? We're just going right over the money?
Right over
like
the money.
Cow jumped
Dropping
over it?
carpet bombs on it. Carpet bombs of perfect speculation. Like when I predicted they'd get rid of short rests, I was spot on the money.
Yeah, that didn't hold up, did it?
Other than that, not much else has changed with the Rogue core.
Smallest
it's really,
changes,
really
yeah.
similar. Thief is pretty different though. A lot better.
But also awful. Is it better than the original Thief? Sure. The 3rd level ability still feels like a waste of time though, and could very well be part of the base Rogue class. Adding the search action to cunning action, or adding sleight of hand as a part of the cunning action ability for rogues. I mean, it's so situational for searching to be a thing in combat, for making a dexterity check to pick a lock or disarm a trap with thieves' tools, or to pick a pocket, like all of those things needing to be bonus actions. When does that come up? Very infrequently.
Yeah, I agree.
They got rid of use object.
Fast hands is pretty much the same.
And they got rid of used object. That's right.
Which is the one that I see could come up more.
We argued for that in a couple of instances, actually, of it being like a build saver. I think with Artificer in some ways it helped a lot. Yeah, not a fan of that. And then second story work, which is you gain the climb speed equal to your speed, and then when you take the jump action, you can make a dexterity check instead of a strength check. Just make that a half feat. Take it out of this class entirely. And if you can't give the thief something that actually makes it a good class at third level, like a good third level ability, just take it out. It's not necessary. If somebody wants to play a thief rogue, just say they're a thief rogue. Make a feat, like I just said, of second story work and get everything that you need from being a thief rogue by just saying you're a thief rogue. I really hate this subclass.
I do too, but it feels like sacrilegious because it's kind of it's like the rogue, and you're like, nah, I hate it. It sucks.
I feel like assassin to me feels more like the rogue than thief, because assassin's actually like, I don't know, worth talking about.
Yeah, but it's also, I always thought it was too much.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, I'm an assassin. It's like,
yeah, I take back saying it's better. It's actually almost very, very similar. The really big change is use magical device. You can now tune up to 4, and if you use something that expends a charge, roll d6 on a 6, you use it without expending a charge, and you could potentially use a spell scroll. You could use any spell scroll that bears a cantrip or first level. You could just use, even if it's not on your list, which is pretty nice. Anything more, you have to roll for it. Where in the old one, it was it never came up, but I guess because I never played with someone who played a thief. You learned enough about the workings of magic that you could improvise the use of items when they're not intended for you. You ignore all class, race, and level requirements for the use of magic items.
That just didn't come up much in general.
Right.
Restrictions on items are very seldom used just in official.
Yeah, it's usually
items.
Like artifact level stuff that has that anyway.
That's not entirely true, but mostly true. And the other thing that when we would not see this is because you pick magic items based off of who they're for. If you rolled on a table and you ended up just random shit nobody in the party could use, this would come up way more.
It's true, but that's just not how D&D is played. I don't think I'm alone in that.
Right.
And I'd say that except for in Adventure League, people just don't really do the whole random magic item. And even if you do, the way people are doing it is you get random magic items, and they probably have a magic item store where people can then sell those magic items and buy ones that they actually want. So to me, it's a holdout. And this is really, so far from what I've seen, doing a pretty good job of removing a lot of the holdout aspects that 5th edition has, because 5th edition's not a dungeon crawler. It's just not. It pretends to be in some cases by having lists that make you think it's a dungeon crawler, but it's not. I think Matt Colville actually had a video on this really recently that is worth checking out. Not that we need to like plug Matt Colville, but he's pretty great. Overall though, this just, it's so specific and relies on the DM leaning into their subclass instead of the subclass taking what's theirs. And I don't like that.
Okay.
Which is a good thing that it changed.
Yeah, I like that perspective on it. What was that?
Well, I mean, that's good. I'm glad it changed.
You glad what part changed?
That it used to be
the use magic device.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That's definitely a lot better, but it's all the way until 10th to get really any difference.
Right.
Well, I mean,
yeah, the attunement part's nice. The charges part I feel like is too specific. I don't know. But
yeah,
then
that's really specific. The scrolls is the cool one.
Yeah. But then Thieves' Reflex
like
is kind of nice. I mean, 14th level might be a little bit long for it, but I'm open to this idea of getting basically your cunning action, whatever you use for it, is free, and then you still have a bonus action up to your proficiency bonus. You could do that.
Minus the fact that it replaced a overwhelmingly superior feature.
Which was what?
You could take 2 turns on your first turn.
Yeah, that is kind of it. So Thieves' Reflexes in the original was 17th level. You have become adept at laying ambushes and quickly escaping danger. You can take 2 turns during the first round of any combat. You take your first turn at your normal initiative and your second turn at initiative -10, and you can't use it when you're surprised. That is better.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it actually wouldn't be much better now that they killed the fact that, well, no, this would probably trigger 2 sneak attacks, in my opinion.
It is on your turn. You could take attacks. So you're saying the original
with the new
wording.
sneak attack.
We had a new
Yes,
Yeah.
you could have gotten 2 sneak attacks on your turn. Now it is impossible. Just throwing absolute shit at the wall here. I would be totally fine to see Thief's Reflexes as a 3rd level ability. Like literally just there you go, your cunning actions free for you up to your proficiency bonus. That gets better over time because it scales on proficiency bonus anyways. And then 14th level, you just stick in that current 17th level ability of Thief's Reflexes. And then their whole thing is about being able to just go more than anybody else. They're quick. They're light on their feet. They're able to use everything. That's, again, just throwing things out. I've not, thought much more on that.
I do like the idea of it.
But otherwise, just not a huge fan.
Yeah.
Rogues destroyed, wrecked. You deserve it for ruining everybody else's good times with your sneak attack spamming.
Well, I really do think at this point you only like warlocks and barbarians.
Yeah, basically.
And the champion fighter gets a pass.
Yeah.
Doesn't try too
That's
hard
a
to
chill
be
class.
anything
That's a chill class. That doesn't upset me.
Yeah. Speaking of things that don't upset Will, he was just telling me that it doesn't upset him that Metallic Dice Games changed their name to Fanroll. Said he didn't care because I asked him and he was like, I don't really care about that, which is fair. So that's the only news you get. And the thing that didn't change though is that you can still use the code MM10 to get 10% off your order at Fanroll or Metallic Dice Games. Really depends on when this releases. That's not coming out for another maybe 2 days when we're discussing this. We'll see. But right now, if you buy dice or other accessories from Fanroll, then we get increased commissions. It's the exact same percentage off. It's still 10% off, but for the next 2 months, we get 20% of your order. It's better for us and the exact same for you. So head on over to Fanroll and you too can save 10% off by using the code MM10. And again, it helps out the show. So yeah, check it out. They got good stuff. Look at these dice.
Good. Yeah. Ooh, finally.
Ooh.
It took us 4 years to remember to bring out the metal dice to show.
I just had it next to me too. It was total chance. I hope this one's from them. I don't remember. I just have dice. That's from them. That's from them.
All right, but yeah, that's the end of the rogue. There's additional feats and stuff too, but I think we're cutting it off here. Maybe at a later point, we'll do another quick video on feats and some of the rules glossary changes. But we covered all the classes changes, which is the big stuff.
Well, thank you as always to our patrons: Ed G, Mudawait, Brian H, Craig A, Isaac M, Luca L, Jeff W, Star Shinobi, Vincent M, Bob F, Joe P, Rick D, Sensitivity20, Tyler S, Gray, Barons, Adam A, Rob K, and Gray. You all are awesome, and if you want to support the show, you can head on over to monstersmulticlass.com/support, and you can go to the Patreon where we've got early episode releases most of the time, as well as show notes and campaign diaries. So yeah, check that out, as well as some of our other affiliates. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and as always, thanks for watching.